Hey there, so glad you're here. This is Reddit Stories Podcast. Relax, you're safe here. Here's our first story. Karen gets fired after shocking Facebook post. So this happened at my university and it shocked a lot of people. One of the assistant deans, someone you would expect to represent professionalism, empathy, and the values of the university, made a post online after a celebrity passed away recently. This wasn't just any staff member. She was known around campus, not famous by any means, but her role carried weight. Students went to her for guidance, professors worked with her on administrative decisions, and she had a reputation for being someone who was supposed to keep things balanced when situations got tense. When the news of the celebrity's passing broke, most people reacted the way you would expect. Even if you didn't particularly like him or didn't agree with his views, there was a general sense of sadness. It was something that people didn't see coming. But instead of offering condolences, or even just staying silent, the assistant dean went on Facebook and wrote that she had zero sympathy for him because of her personal views. It wasn't just the words she chose, but the tone of it. Cold, dismissive, and completely lacking in compassion. She hit publish, and within minutes, people started noticing. Now, I'm not going into names or details here. Most of you probably already know who I'm talking about, but that's not the point of this story, and I don't want to add fuel to the fire. This isn't about picking sides. It's about what happens when someone in a position of authority forgets that empathy should always come first. At first, it was just a few comments and shares, people in her immediate circle reacting with shock or anger, but it didn't stay there. Screenshots of the post spread like wildfire. Students started sharing it in group chats. Alumni were reposting it on Twitter. Even parents of students began emailing the administration, asking how the university could allow someone in such a visible role to act in such a way. The university tried to hold off at first. They didn't make any statements that night, probably hoping it would all blow over. But by the next morning, it was everywhere. Student organizations were posting open letters. Some professors even brought it up before starting class, shaking their heads and saying they couldn't believe what they had read. For a place that always preached about integrity and compassion, it felt like a huge betrayal. Before long, the university had no choice but to respond. Meetings were called. Faculty whispered about how serious it was. Rumors spread that higher-ups were furious. Within just a couple of days, the administration announced she was no longer employed. No drawn-out investigation, no soft landing. Just gone. The announcement itself was brief, just a formal statement sent to everyone's inbox, saying she was no longer with the university and that they remained committed to upholding their values. But everyone knew what had pushed it. That one post had ended her entire career here. And here's what I take away from it. No matter how different your opinions are from someone else's, a lack of empathy always says more about you than it does about them. Anyone can disagree. Anyone can criticize. But when something horrible happens, how you respond shows what kind of person you are at the core. Because true love doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what ideology, background, or belief system someone has chosen. It doesn't measure who is worthy of sympathy and who isn't. At the end of the day, compassion is the only response that reflects real strength of character. And when someone in a position of influence forgets that, the consequences can be swift and unforgiving. I completely agree with you. Over the years, I've realized the only people I can truly get along with are the ones who show compassion and respect to others, no matter what. I just don't have the energy anymore for people who want to argue or criticize constantly, especially about politics. What I've never understood is why some folks can't just be kind and friendly without needing to prove they're right and everyone else is wrong. Life feels a lot lighter when you surround yourself with people who simply care about others and treat them with basic decency. The real problem is that the people who are always bickering and trying to prove they're right honestly believe they're acting from a good place. They convince themselves that they're standing up for what's right, and then anyone who disagrees must be evil. What makes it worse is that this happens on both sides, and neither of them ever stop to realize they're doing the exact same thing. It's exhausting to watch because it just keeps the cycles going instead of anyone actually being kind or understanding. What I've learned is that love doesn't mean agreeing with everyone, and it doesn't mean ignoring our differences. It just means choosing to treat people with kindness, even when we don't see eye to eye. Every time we put compassion first, the world feels a little less divided. Imagine if we all made that the starting point, instead of trying to win arguments. These comments remind me of my dad. I had to go no contact with him because every time we spoke, he wanted to debate the Bible and call me names like dumb or idiot. I don't say this to sound superior, but over the years, I've come to realize that my own relationship with God is very close, and it took me a long time to understand that my dad was actually the one who didn't understand him. It's not about who can quote the most verses or who shows up at church. It's about who has opened their heart to love. I carried intense PTSD for years because of how it was growing up with him. Nightmares, constant fights in my own head, waking up in tears. It was torment, it was hell, and I would never wish it on anyone. But one day, when I broke down like never before, I prayed the simplest prayer of my life. I said, I don't know if you're really out there, but if you are, please hear me. I can't do this anymore. I give up. Carry me. I need you. I surrender. Come into my heart and into my life in every way. And in that moment, everything changed. The weight lifted. The pain was gone. Since then, I've seen synchronicities and signs I couldn't even begin to explain. I won't try to convince anyone, but I know there's more to this life than what we can see or measure. As for my dad, when I tried to share this with him, he said it was the devil, and that unless I backed it up with King James verses, it wasn't true. But even this turned into a blessing. Through him, I learned contrast. He showed me the difference between fear and love, and for that, I'm grateful. I wish him nothing but the best. If you're carrying pain like I once did, I hope you know you can reach out too. Even the smallest prayer, spoken with an open heart, can change everything.
You know, Reddit boy, I think people spend way too much time worrying about what everyone else thinks.
Right? I'm glad neither of us are concerned with the views of our listeners.
We don't have to be. Not when our focus is just us coming together and enjoying each other's company.
Almost like the real secret is unity, not division.
One day we'll all see it, Reddit boy, and we'll laugh at how we used to spend so much time fighting each other instead of just being kind. Because at the end of the day, who doesn't love kindness?
Am I the jerk for wanting my boyfriend to back out of a destination wedding he's the best man for because I was uninvited? I've been with my boyfriend for about 8 months. I know that doesn't sound like forever, but we're both in our 30s, have moved in together, met each other's families, and are on the same page about marriage and building a future. That was part of why this whole thing hit me so hard. A few months ago, we got invited to his best friend's destination wedding. It's at a luxury resort that charges a small fortune per night. He's the best man, so it was a given that he'd be there. Naturally, I was invited as his plus one. We booked flights, reserved a room, and I started looking forward to spending a few days with his friend group, a group I've been trying to get closer to because these are the people he's known forever. The bride and groom aren't strangers to me. I've met them several times, have been nothing but friendly, and was even invited to their joint bachelor and bachelorette weekend. I went, made conversation, joined the group activities, and honestly, I thought it went really well. I came home feeling like I had finally started to fit in with his circle of friends. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago. My boyfriend got a call from the groom, looking extremely uncomfortable. He told my boyfriend that the bride didn't want me at the wedding anymore. I was uninvited. I didn't even get the message directly. It was passed through the groom to my boyfriend, then to me. According to what the groom said, the bride felt like I didn't make enough of an effort to make her feel special during the bachelorette weekend. She felt like I was competing with her for attention, and she decided I shouldn't come to the wedding. I was stunned. My boyfriend was stunned. We called some of the other friends who were on the trip, and they all agreed it was a massive overreaction. Apparently, the bride had been upset about a few specific things. At a group dinner, I was seated on the opposite side of the table from her. I was talking with the girls near me and didn't realize she felt excluded. During karaoke, she had just finished a song and the group was cheering for her to sing another. I didn't know she wanted to go again, so I went to put a new song on for myself. She apparently thought I didn't make an effort to get to know everyone, even though I spent time with several of the girls. Some of them weren't drinking, and I naturally gravitated towards the ones who were joining in on the party vibe. None of this felt malicious. It was just normal group dynamics, right? but somehow it became a laundry list of why I'm a bad +1 for my boyfriend. When my boyfriend told me, my first reaction was to offer to talk to the bride directly. I wanted to clear up the misunderstanding and apologize if I had accidentally hurt her feelings. I figured if she heard me out, maybe she'd reconsider. But as I sat with it, I started to feel something else: resentment. Even if she reversed her decision, would I really want to go to a wedding where I had been uninvited and then grudgingly allowed back in? It would be awkward and tense, and I'd be spending most of the weekend surrounded by her friends, knowing she didn't want me there in the first place. Still, the thing that hurt the most wasn't the rescinded invitation. It was that my boyfriend didn't immediately say, "If she's uninvited, I'm not going either." He hesitated. He said it was complicated. We talked about it at length. I told him that if the decision stayed and I was really not allowed to attend, I'd feel pretty crushed if he went on without me. For me, it would feel like him silently agreeing with the bride's decision. He told me that felt like an unfair ultimatum, that I was putting him in an impossible position, choosing between his best friend's wedding and me. I get that he's the best man and that being there is a big deal, but it's not just a one-night event. It's a whole destination trip. He'd be gone for several days, using vacation days we had originally planned to spend together. He'd be spending that time with people who had just made me feel small and unwelcome. I reminded him that I wasn't asking him to cut off his best friend or end their friendship. I just didn't want him going to a party where I'd been publicly excluded. Money makes this worse. We already paid for both our flights and reserved the resort room. The groom even offered to pay my boyfriend back for my share, which was nice, but it didn't change the fact that this trip was meant to be a vacation for us. When we talked again, I tried to be more reasonable. I told him I was willing to hear out the bride, and that if she didn't change her mind, maybe I could still come to the resort, but just not attend the wedding events. I could spend the days at the spa or on the beach while he did his best man duties. That way, we'd still have evenings together, and the flights wouldn't go to waste. My boyfriend shut that idea down immediately. He said my presence at the resort would cause more drama, make the bride uncomfortable, and alienate me further from the friend group. I suggested staying at a different resort nearby, just to salvage the trip, and he still said no. He said the best thing would be for me to stay home or plan a completely different vacation. Hearing that hurt in a different way. I felt like he was prioritizing the bride and groom's comfort over mine. I wanted him to fight for me, to at least want me in the same country during this trip. I've been trying so hard to integrate myself into his friend group because we've talked about building a future together, raising kids near these people, having our lives intertwined. I put in that effort because I wanted us to be a unit. Now I feel like I've been shoved to the outside and he's letting it happen. Part of me wants to just let it go and be the understanding girlfriend. Another part of me wants to make it clear how deeply hurt I am. I don't want to end the relationship, but I don't know how I'm supposed to cheer him on as best man when I'm at home uninvited. So, am I the jerk for wanting him to back out of the wedding if I'm not welcome there? This isn't just about a wedding, it's about your place in his life. It's one thing for the bride to have hurt feelings, but your boyfriend is sending a pretty clear message by choosing to prioritize her comfort over yours. It's terrible etiquette to rescind a +1 after you've already invited them, especially when travel is booked and paid for. If he does go without you, you'll be left out of multiple events, double dates, and friend gatherings for years to come. If you want a future with him, you need to decide if you're okay being on the outside of his social circle forever. You're not asking him to end a friendship. You're asking him not to publicly co-sign the bride's decision to exclude you. That's not the same thing. If he can't see that, I'd take a hard look at the balance in this relationship. Update 1. I've had a lot of time to think since my original post. I actually paid for the flights, not my boyfriend. I had forgotten because we booked them so long ago. The resort is refundable, so technically we could cancel it. The groom told my boyfriend that he could room with another guest to keep costs down. I sat my boyfriend down and told him that while I'm hurt, I don't want to control his decision. If he feels strongly about being there for his friend, he should go. I told him that if the bride and groom don't change their minds, maybe we could still travel together. I could spend time at the spa or pool while he does the wedding stuff, but he was completely against it. He wasn't okay with any of the ideas that I came up with. I can feel myself trying to be the cool, understanding girlfriend, but it stings that my feelings seem to be the least priority here. I've been left out of the discussion with the bride entirely. All my information is coming through my boyfriend, and it feels like I'm in a hole while everyone else talks about me above ground. At this point, I might just use the refunded money to take a trip with a friend or my family that weekend. If he wants to go stand by his friend's side, he can, but I'm going to make sure I'm not just sitting at home feeling miserable while he's off at a party I wasn't invited to. I still haven't reached out to the bride. My boyfriend says now isn't the right time because she's apparently been crying about this. I might wait a week and then ask to hear her side directly. Even if nothing changes, at least I'll have spoken my piece. Something about this feels off. Your boyfriend seems a little too invested in keeping you away from this group, even from staying at a different resort. If these friends are supposed to be your future neighbors and co-parents, what happens when there are birthdays, holidays, kids' events? You deserve to know exactly what went wrong. I think taking a separate trip is the healthiest thing you can do right now. Don't waste your vacation days sitting at home while he's gone. Go visit friends, take a spa trip, go see your family. Let them have his drama-filled weekend wedding, and you have a drama-free getaway. It might be time to have a deeper talk about your values. Right now, he's prioritizing avoiding conflict over supporting you. That might work for one wedding, but what happens when it's bigger things? Buying a house, raising kids, dealing with in-laws. You need to know if this is a pattern before you invest more of yourself into the relationship. Update 2. I wanted to give a final update now that the wedding is over and everything is settled down. About a week after my last post, I reached out to the bride myself. I kept it short and polite, asking if she would be open to a quick call so I could hear her perspective directly. To my surprise, she agreed. The call was awkward but civil. She told me that she had felt like I wasn't making an effort to get to know her and that she felt like I took attention away from her during the bachelorette weekend. I told her I never intended to make her feel excluded or overshadowed and that I was sorry if I did. I explained that from my side, I had thought everything went well and that I really was looking forward to the wedding. She said she appreciated my apology, but that she still didn't feel comfortable having me there for the wedding. She said it was her special weekend and she didn't want to feel tense or uncomfortable. At that point, I accepted that I wasn't going to change her mind, so I made a choice. I canceled my resort booking, got the refund, and used the money to take a girls' trip with one of my best friends instead. It was honestly the best thing I could have done for myself. Spa days, cocktails, sunshine, and not a single awkward stare. My boyfriend went to the wedding, did all his best man duties, and sent me a few photos of the event. He said it was nice, but that it felt weird not having me there, especially during the reception when everyone was dancing with their partners and he was just sitting at the table. When he got home, we had a long talk. He told me that the groom actually pulled him aside at one point and said he wished I could have been there, but that it wasn't his decision to make. My boyfriend admitted that it hurt him too that I wasn't included, and he promised that going forward, if we're ever put in a situation like this again, we'll make the decision together as a team. I'm still not sure where I stand with the bride. If she ever decides she wants to clear the air further, I'd be willing to meet her halfway for the sake of our boyfriend's friendship. But I'm glad I stood my ground, and I'm glad I didn't just sit at home waiting for him to come back. This whole situation taught me that I need to value my own time and feelings just as much as I value everyone else's comfort. I can't say everything is 100% back to normal between me and my boyfriend yet, but I do feel like he understands where I'm coming from now. Good for you for taking that girls' trip. That's exactly what you needed, to reclaim your time and not sit at home miserable while everyone else partied. You handled the bride's feelings with maturity, apologized, and still respected yourself enough to set boundaries. If she can't see that, that's on her. I'm glad you stood your ground, but your boyfriend really needs to think about where his loyalty lies in the future. It shouldn't have taken the groom pulling him aside for him to realize how weird it was to go solo while you were uninvited. Next time, he should be more proactive about standing up for you, not just after the fact when it's too late.
Imagine being so mad about karaoke that you ban someone from your wedding months later.
Right? Bride turned a bachelorette weekend into a grudge-holding Olympics.
OP took a girls' trip and came back glowing while the bride was still sulking in a white dress.
And the boyfriend got a front row seat to see how awkward it was without her. Lesson learned. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover for my coworker anymore? So I, 28 male, work on a small operations team. There are 7 of us, 1 manager, shared inbox, rolling deadlines. We're the people the rest of the company forgets about until they need a report at 4:45. My coworker, Elle, joined last year. First week, she was friendly and fun. She brought pastries, asked a lot of questions, and everyone liked her. When she was late on day 3, we joked about the trains. When she ducked out early on day 5, she said her landlord needed to fix an emergency. No one blinked. It happens. Week 2, she pinged me before stand-up. Could I say she was on a quick call if our manager asked? I said sure. It felt harmless. She messaged later thanking me and added a smiley. That was the first tiny favor. Then it turned into a routine. Mondays, she'd be running 5 minutes late, then arrive at 10:20 with iced coffee and a story. Midweek, she'd step out for lunch and come back 2 hours later or not at all. Every other Thursday, she had an appointment. The pattern didn't click for me until I noticed I was touching her tickets more than my own. She began sending small requests. Can you sign off on the vendor worksheets? I'll finish it tomorrow. If the boss asks, tell him I already uploaded the receipts. Can you push that dashboard live for me? My laptop is being weird. At first, I covered for her. I told myself she was still learning the system. I fixed a few formulas, answered a couple of emails in the shared inbox, and nudged a deadline or 2. She always promised she'd pay me back for the help, but she never did. The requests kept growing. One afternoon, she messaged me asking me to submit the Q2 reconciliation under my name because she was slammed. When I opened the file, half the cells were blank and the other half were wrong. I ended up spending an hour cleaning it up and another 30 minutes answering finance's questions about it. Just before I left that day, she popped by my desk, thanked me for being a lifesaver, and left before I could even reply. A week later, she left early and told me that if the boss asked where she was, I should say she was in the bathroom. I remember sitting there, feeling like a teenager covering for a friend cutting class. The worst day came at month end. Our team had a standing rule. Everything has to be closed by the last business day at 3 p.m. or you escalate. She strolled in at 10:30, dropping her bag, and disappeared. By 1 p.m., 2 of her items were still open, and the owners were pinging the shared inbox asking for updates. I sent her a message, no response. I pinged her again, still nothing. At 2:15, she finally wrote back saying she was on her way back and asked me to just submit her items along with mine. Doing that would have meant putting my name on entries I hadn't reviewed. I told her I'd help once she got back. She sent a thumbs up and didn't return until after 4. That was the moment it hit me. Every single tiny favor had my name attached to it. If anything blew up, the trail would lead right through me. I started keeping a notebook. Nothing dramatic, just dates and what I had touched. Things like fixed vendor worksheet L started and submitted, covered L in stand-up, closed X and Y tickets L opened. Writing it down made me feel less crazy. The next week, our manager praised me in the team chat for keeping the pipeline moving. She replied with clapping emojis, and 5 minutes later messaged me privately asking me to review her draft before the end of the day. When I opened it, it was nothing but an outline. She was clearly hoping I'd just fill it in. I stared at it for a while and finally sent her a polite no. She didn't take it well. She came to my desk, leaned against the divider, and whispered that she just needed teammates who had her back. She said she had a lot going on outside of work and needed support. I told her I was sorry she was going through things and that I could answer questions, but I couldn't do the deliverable for her. She shook her head and muttered, "Wow," and walked away with her phone in hand. The next day, she tried another approach. She messaged, asking if I could at least tell the boss she had finished her report so she wouldn't look bad. I told her I wasn't going to lie. Her response was that I was ruining her life over nothing. Nothing. That word stuck. It wasn't nothing. It was the extra hour I stayed after 5. It was the quiet dread when my name sat next to her work. It was the way my own deadlines got tight because I was busy putting out fires she had lit and walked away from. That afternoon, I decided I needed to draw a line. After lunch, I asked if we could talk. We stepped into an empty huddle room. I kept it simple. I told her I was done covering. I said I had enough on my own plate, and I wasn't going to sign off on her work or tell the boss she had done something she hadn't. If she needed help understanding a task, I was happy to walk through it, but I wasn't going to do it for her. She just stared at me for a few seconds, then said I was being cold. She reminded me that she had things going on outside of work and said, "If you were a decent teammate, you would protect me." I repeated what I'd said. I'd answer questions, but I wouldn't lie. And that was the end of the conversation. The mood in the office shifted. For a few days, 2 people were polite but stiff with me. One coworker made a pointed comment that we all need help sometimes. Another came to me privately and said he was glad I said something because he had been doing the same thing for her and didn't know how to stop. For a while, Elle didn't speak to me. Then she tested the boundary. She arrived late one morning and pinged me to say she was at her desk if anyone asked. I ignored the message. During stand-up, the manager asked if everyone was present, and I simply said who was in the room. She came in during the meeting and glared at me like I had broken some unspoken pact. The next week, she sent me another quick review request, except it was just a blank template. I told her I couldn't complete it for her. She sent a long reply about how overwhelmed she felt and ended with a line saying that if she missed the deadline, it would be because I refused to help. I ignored it and finished my own list. I felt guilty for a bit, but the guilt faded. I reminded myself that answering a question was helping. Taking over was not. Her emergencies didn't have to become mine. I also cleaned up my workflow. I stopped touching anything under my login that wasn't mine. If someone emailed the shared inbox about her work, I tagged her and left it there. If something escalated, I forwarded it to the team chat with her name on it. Just the facts, no commentary. A few days later, my manager asked me to join him for a one-on-one. He mentioned that my volume had dipped slightly from the spike he'd praised earlier. I explained that I'd been doing a lot of hand-holding and had stepped back to focus on my own responsibilities. He asked if there were any process gaps he should know about. I suggested it might help to clarify expectations around sign-offs, since some things were being submitted by people who hadn't actually done the work. He nodded, made a note, and said he'd send a reminder to the team. The reminder went out the next morning. Owners submit their own deliverables. If you're blocked, escalate. Do not ask others to sign for you. It was sent to everyone, but it hit exactly where it needed to. She didn't message me that day. Not everyone was happy with the new normal. One coworker told me she thought I was being unfair and too technical about everything. Another, the same one who had thanked me earlier, started tagging Elle in the group chat and asking her pointed questions instead of covering. The whole tone of the team shifted from quietly bailing her out to holding her to the same rules. Later that week, she cornered me in the kitchen and said I had started all of this. I stayed quiet, poured my coffee, and let her talk. She said I could have handled it privately. I reminded her that we had handled it privately, twice. The final straw happened on a Friday. She messaged me at 2:05 saying she had to leave at 2:30 and asking me to submit her weekly summary. She said she'd send me her notes. I didn't reply. At 2:20, she sent the notes, 3 bullet points, and a shrug emoji. By 2:35, she was gone. At 4:10, the manager pinged the team for summaries. I sent mine, others sent theirs. Hers didn't come in. At 4:45, he pinged again. Nothing. Finally, at 5:03, she sent a short message saying she had sent it first thing Monday. The manager replied, reminding her that weekly summaries are due on Fridays. I shut down my laptop and went home. Monday was going to be interesting. But for the first time in months, I felt like I'd actually kept my word to myself. Now I'm getting mixed feedback. Some people think I'm being harsh. Others think I'm doing what should have been done a long time ago. She says I'm ruining her life and that teammates are supposed to have each other's backs. I don't want to be the office jerk, but I also don't want my name attached to work I didn't do or excuses I didn't make. So, am I the jerk for refusing to cover for my coworker anymore? Say this to Elle. If you were a decent teammate, you'd pull your weight and not ask people to lie for you. And to the cold coworkers, if you think I'm being unfair, you cover for her, not the jerk. I'd go with, I don't get paid more than you, and you have no idea what's going on in my life. We all have issues. Sorry yours aren't more important to me than my own. If you're dealing with things in your personal life, that's when you talk to the boss and make arrangements, not dump your work on your coworkers. Not the jerk. You're not ruining her life. She's doing that to herself. Everyone has stuff going on outside of work, but that doesn't mean you take on their job too. You don't get paid extra to fix her mistakes or lie for her. And if your coworkers think she needs special treatment, they can volunteer to do it. You're right to step back. Covering for her risks your own credibility with your boss. Keep doing your work. Tag her when something is hers and let her handle the fallout. It might be awkward for a bit, but it'll pass, and you'll be glad you set the boundary.
Imagine being mad at someone for not doing your job for you.
Right? You're ruining my life. No, you're ruining your own deadlines.
OB basically told her, "Your emergencies are not my emergencies."
And now she's learning the hard way that coworker doesn't mean a free assistant. What would you do if a wild Karen kept stealing flowers from your yard? Come find out in our next video. It just popped up on the screen. Give it a tap with your thumb or a click with your remote, and Karen and I will be right there waiting for you.